Hello, everybody. And here we are again with Tatiana.
Judith, hello everyone.
And we have a special guest today, Chantal Epp from the music licensing platform Click&Clear. Hello, Chantal.
Hiya. Hi, great to be here.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us today because we want to discuss a very important topic. It's about music, licensing music rights. More and more skaters are confronted with some issues in that respect, and that wasn't always the case. It seems to be like recently more and more. There were some lawsuits, unfortunately, and skaters having trouble with the music rights. So how did that happen? That because music rights were always there, but now suddenly it's more in the focus.
Yes. So, as you said, copyright has always existed. It's actually one of the oldest intellectual property rights that exist. And so, but it's just there wasn't really any way to actually license the music, and people didn't really realize how to do it or what to do. And unfortunately, there have been a number of lawsuits that have happened. And the reason I started Click and Clear was because cheerleading suffered a lawsuit with a major label for using music, with editing and adapting music to accompany their routines and so on. And at the time, I was working in music licensing, but I'm also a now two-time world champion cheerleader, and used to have a music production company that made music mixes for cheerleading and gymnastics. So I was perfectly placed to create a solution to the problem. And we have just seen time and time again there are lawsuits, and every time there's a lawsuit, the athletes or the federation, everyone freaks out, panic. It's not a good experience to go through. And of course, new formalities have to kind of come into place to help protect the athletes involved in the sport and to help protect the federations and the organizations working within the sport. So yeah, it's not really a new thing. It's just because it's become an increasingly worse issue that has negative risk and financial risk.
Yeah, so their athletes may be at risk that somebody will sue them, an artist or a label. So, but what do you do? How do you help to prevent these problems?
Yeah, we're very much here to help prevent. We're not the music industry police, that's what we say. We're here to provide a solution so that athletes can instantly license music for their routines. And over the last sort of 7 years, we have gone and got global blanket licenses with all of the major record labels and music publishers to clear the specialist set of rights that are needed for cheerleading, dance, gymnastics, figure skating, artistic swimming, every sport that uses music as part of their routines. And it's taken a long time to get the music industry fully on board. But we now have a catalogue of over 35 million copyrights in our internal database, which leads to roughly 2 million tracks that are live and available for people to license instantly. And the reason why there is a difference in that number is because music rights are incredibly fragmented. So one hit song can have nine different writers on it, plus a record label, which is 10 different people you need to speak to in order to clear a license. Regardless if you're using 2 seconds or 20 seconds of the music, you still need permission. And in some cases, a writer could have less than 1% of the music. And if they haven't responded or they say no, then you can't actually secure a license for it. So we really needed a streamlined solution that automatically kind of cleared all of the ownership information and kind of created a safe sandbox of music so athletes can choose from a catalog that they know is definitely cleared or available.
So what they do then, they would go to your website
Yep,
and then they can search for music they may
yep,
want to use.
yep. Search for music and then you literally add it to your cart and pay for the license. You get a preview of the license agreement, and then at the end, once you've paid, you also get the download of the recording, so you can go and make your mix of music or use that for your training purposes with your routine. But that's very simple. It's just that. And of course, if the music isn't available, we do also have a request process, but it can just take some time to go through that process and cost more money than our platform. And just on that, the music that is available on our platform is usually about $25 per track per mix for 1 year's use. And then we also have multi-country licenses as well.
Yeah, but then that will be more expensive, right? Because
Yes.
the skaters, they usually perform in different countries throughout the season.
Yes.
So typically, if you have a a program that has 3 different tracks, and the skater will perform in 5 different countries, so how much different approximately that could cost?
So once you hit 3 countries and more, you automatically get all of the countries that the music is available in. And the cost for one track for that is $75. So 5 times 75 would be your total.
I just jump in there with one question because I have been clicking around your website recently, and if I want to license a song, there's the option that it says like it's available in 50 countries. So that's not all the countries.
No.
What does that exactly mean? Does it mean in the countries that are not listed, it's not licensed? Are these countries free? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so going back to the fragmentation of music rights, there being, 9 to 10 different people to speak to, music can be owned by different publishers or record labels in different countries. And so when we don't have that country listed, it's because the publisher or the record label that we're working with doesn't represent those countries. So sometimes it's a case of the music actually is available in our database and we've not been sent the full information, so people can make a request and might be that we can make it available. But in other cases, it might be that somebody else owns it in that country, and so we need to go and seek permission from them.
Wow.
So that means if the country is not listed, you are still not free to use it. Yeah, I mean.
Yes, it doesn't mean that the country is free. But you can make a request, and it means it's more likely that we would be able to make it available, but we can't guarantee that.
Yeah, sounds very complicated.
Yes. You almost need a degree just to understand music copyright.
In figure skating, your website and this whole process only got kind of talked about this season. You just mentioned the reasoning, but there was also, maybe this is rather a question towards Tanya, there was also a change in the ISU rules, was there, that the skaters are now more responsible themselves, and before the ISU did part of the job for them?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think what the ISU recommends, that the skaters are responsible themselves. That's for their music, but I don't think that the ISU ever cleared music rights for the skaters.
Because I was just also thinking about the recording of the skater who we talked to before, and he indicated something like that. So maybe it's good that you
mean for videos?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for videos, the skater is obviously responsible for the music used in their routine. But then, of course, it might be that the event organizer is going to film the competition and make that available for live streaming or TV broadcast or video on demand. And that's usually down to the event organizer or the broadcaster to handle what's called sync licensing for those types of rights or that use.
Yeah, but because this always has been in place, that the organizers have to get the license to be able to host an event where the music is publicly played. But that's a different thing then.
That is another thing called performing rights licenses. So that is for playing music publicly in a venue. And that's probably the one that most people know or understand because it's the one that's most familiar and it's been kind of around for hundreds of years. But yeah, that is a performing rights license for the venue to play music or the event organizer to play music in the venue.
And then for the skaters, because they are actually performing. So that
yes, it's a funny term because it comes really down to when people used to play music, like physically play music. Of course, a skater is performing, but they're using music in a different way because they are often editing it with other pieces of music, but they're also putting it together with a choreographed routine, with their uniforms or costumes, whatever you refer to them as, into this whole piece that's kind of telling a story.
Mm. And then now the actually the ISU has in the new rules for the rhythm dance that has specifically allowed skaters to use music created by AI, by artificial intelligence. So what does that mean concerning music rights?
So AI is a big topic in the music industry. It's a difficult question to answer because not every country has kind of completed a law for use on AI generated music and the kind of laws around training data, training AI with copyrighted data. So it's difficult to really say, but it is a little bit of a gray area. I will say that AI generated music often will recreate something that already exists, in which case a music forensicologist will say, well, this is the same piece of music. So therefore, when we had a situation where someone wanted to use a piece of music from an artist who used AI and it recreated the final countdown. It was very obviously the final countdown. So they could say, well, no, that's clearly infringing. Then the other side of it is a lot of AI generated music will kind of recreate sort of royalty-free type music, kind of, your background, low quality music that's not as engaging. And so, yeah, you might be able to use that. I guess it's kind of is similar to using production music. But it just depends on what impression you're trying to make, and does it relate to you? Does it relate to your audience? Does it relate to the judges? That I think is the difference with commercially released music.
Yeah, but I know that some skaters, they use composers to have
Yeah.
music specifically composed for them. So, like the German pair skater Minerva Hase said that they are this year, after they had also some problems with music licensing in the past, said they are hiring a composer to make their music. So to be
Yeah.
sure.
And that is an option too. That is a perfectly legal option. And what's nice about that is you can get something that's completely unique
Mhm.
and stands out. But it just really depends on kind of creativity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What is it that you're trying to get across?
Yeah. And they said, yeah, because they said then also usually when you have to adapt also the choreography to the music that you have. But when you
Yes.
have somebody writing a music for you can ask him to adapt it to your choreography, what you plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe ask for help for skaters, parents, or someone watching. How would you recommend the process when you know you want to skate to a certain song? Of course, first check if it's on your website. If it's not there, what other options do they have? You just touched it a little bit, but maybe to have like a this is how you do it.
Yeah, if it's not there, then you can make a request through our platform. And what will happen is our team will research the rights. 9 times out of 10, we've got most of the rights cleared. We're just missing a portion. And sometimes it's just a case of we're waiting for a deal to close and then it will be able to go live. In other cases, it's owned completely by an independent artist. So we will go and seek that license out for you. And they might approve it, in which case it's approved. You can then decide if you want to go ahead with it, if it's in budget or out of your budget. It's really up to you, but we will go through and at least try and seek a license for it.
Mm.
And I think the benefit there is, yes, you could do that on your own, but we already have most of the data in the system and we have relationships with a lot of the record labels and music publishers. Even if they're not signed up yet, we have relationships. And so it might be easier to get through to the right people. And you kind of do it through us, it's anonymous. So you can kind of make an inquiry, but we don't specifically state who is requesting the music.
Mm. Yeah, but still some skaters feel, I think, limited in their music choice because of this. But it's, I mean, it's not your problem. That's
It is our problem. We're wanting to have the biggest catalogue of music possible, and it's taken us 7 years to get to this point where we have almost 2 million tracks live. Now, there will be substantial increase in catalogue within the next few months or few weeks, really. But you're often, when we're negotiating with rights holders, it can take years to do these big global deals, blanket deals, which means we get access to their entire catalogues. But even still, we've got about 70% market share in terms of the music industry. And even still, what people request is sometimes a bootleg remix, which is actually an illegal remix of a song, like a DJ mashup of a song that someone's made illegally. Well, we can't really help with that. And sometimes it's music from an independent artist who maybe they found the music on Bandcamp. And sometimes these people are impossible to contact. They have no information anywhere. So you have to really kind of dig deep to actually find who the human is behind the music. So yeah, we try to have as much possible, but there are a lot of people request music that has kind of come from YouTube and it may not have actually been made available through legal means, which does make it a little bit harder to then track down the right people.
Oh yeah, I imagine. But yeah,
Yeah.
I imagine it's really a lot of work and research to
Yes.
to find, especially as you said before, that we have a piece of music and we know maybe one artist that is known for it, but in fact there are many, many more people involved.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You might think it's one song, but it could be 10 people behind that one song.
Yeah.
The worst one we've seen is Travis Scott, Sicko Mode, and there are 30 writers and one record label, so 31 people
Wow,
own that piece of music because they sampled two other songs.
I
What
see.
what is it about covers?
Yeah.
If someone wants to skate to a cover version, do you have to only contact the cover artist or the original band who originally wrote the song?
Yes, so you need to contact both the people who created the re-record, the new master, and the original writers of the music. So, for example, if I decided to re-record Katy Perry Raw, beautiful version, and you wanted to use that, then you would seek permission from me for my recording of Katy Perry Raw. But we would also need to get permission from the publishers, Katy Perry, and probably the writing team who was also involved in the song to seek permission. Yeah. So with covers, always the publishing is needed, and then you've got to just get the recording rights from whoever owns that new version of the recording. And we have some cover songs available as well, so it might be that something, the original isn't available, but there are some cover alternatives.
Yeah, I'm not surprised anymore that you said that it can take years to to get to find all the people involved and
Yeah.
get the license.
Well, there's so many more people who are also doing it themselves now in terms of as an artist releasing their own music and make it available on channels like Spotify. And so when you've got lots of independent people rather than organizations, it makes that fragmentation even worse, like harder to reach those people.
Yeah. And are you contacted not only by skaters and coaches, also by who usually contacts you? Skaters, coaches, or
Sometimes
federations?
choreographers, yeah, sometimes federations. I think it really just depends on sort of at what level of the sport those people are operating in. It might be that the federation, if they are running the national team, that they might actually, or the national teams or the national athletes, that they might do it on their behalf. But usually it's the athletes or the coaches or the choreographers.
And this actually also to make it clear that the music right that applies to all levels, not only the seniors that we see at the world championships, but also maybe novice skaters,
Yep.
everybody,
Yes,
right?
it does apply, and I think ultimately it comes down to risk. The more elite you are, then the higher exposure you have because you're much more likely to be seen on TV broadcast and online. In grassroots, it may just happen at the in-person event, but that's not to say that someone might not have found it even on social media and decided that they didn't like it, and that's my music, you're using my music, you didn't seek permission. So it is a risk at all levels, but the higher up you are as an athlete, then the risk is greater.
Yeah, and of course, but there's also we had the cases that some artists are actually very happy that their music is used, and
Yeah.
we remember that Elton John, he congratulated Nathan Chen, who skated to Rocket Man at the Olympic Games, and also some others. So, um,
Yeah, and that can happen. Some artists are going to be really happy, some artists aren't. And in some cases we found it might be that the artist is happy, but the business representatives of them aren't. And their legal team are like, hold on a minute. Um, so you just never know. And I think it's always best to do the right thing, license the music, and make sure that you're protected.
yeah, it's maybe better be safe than sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Judy, do you have another question? I'm just looking at my notes if we forgot any from the points that we wanted to discuss.
Um, I think just in general that the skaters and that I think it's very good that Chantal came here and explained, because Click and Clear is not the evil part. It's the good. It's the
They try to help, yeah.
Thank
they
you.
try to
Thanks for
help.
saying that.
Exactly. Because I really feel like from the skaters' perspective, they feel very lost this season. They really, yeah, I mean, they know Click and Clear, but they think, no, my song is not there. And it's kind of frustrating for them. But I
Yeah.
really like to hear your perspective. And actually, the community of all sports that uses music can be very grateful for you that you're doing this tool in order to support them. Because,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that I'm an athlete too. I just competed at the Cheerleading World Championships last month. So, like, I too want to use great
Yes.
music. I have ideas of songs that I really want to use that aren't on the platform yet, and I find that incredibly frustrating. So I get it, and I also find it frustrating that it takes so long to get all of the music, but there is so much music in the world. It does just take a matter of time. And the best thing for us is knowing what people want. So when people make requests, that helps us know who we need to contact and who we need to get on board. And not every record label and publisher will come on board and say, yes, we're happy for you to use music or make it available. And there are also some artists who the record labels and publishers will restrict, meaning they just won't allow them because they're sensitive and therefore need, more of a conversation before they actually come on board. But we are trying. We're doing everything we can to have the biggest catalogue available, and there is more and coming in the next few months. And yeah, getting those requests in means that we know who we're missing and what music people are after, and helps us really build an even bigger and better catalogue.
Well,
So
you know
it's a
that the ice dance has the rhythm dance is the
Yes,
90s, so I
I
guess we will
know.
get a lot of that.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think I think there's quite a few 90s tracks on the platform, I'm sure.
And so it's kind of a recommendation for skaters or artists, or like for performers. If you have an idea in mind what you might want to skate to in the future, maybe request it now already, because these things can take years. And yeah, it's always a good idea to put these requests in there.
Yeah, it's really, really helpful for us, and it honestly does bring more catalog onto the platform.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. I think we have covered, unless Chantal, you have anything you want to add, which is important to you, which we didn't touch.
Just a bit of sharing news, if that's okay, that we were recently selected as a finalist in the World Intellectual Property Organization's Global Awards in recognition for our innovation with real-world solutions to intellectual property rights licensing issues. So that's a really great win for us. The WIPO is the world, like the United Nations Agency for Intellectual Property Rights. So it's a really, really big win, and hopefully helps people understand that we are very much here to help, and we're supported by people who matter.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes,
you.
big congratulations for that. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, shows
Thank you very
really how
much.
important your work is that you've been doing. Good.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much, and we are looking forward to seeing much more music, and then fingers crossed for a great figure skating season with lots of interesting and cool music.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
best of luck this season. No, thank you.
Thank you.